didn't miss anything, so don't worry.
Excuse me?
Well, except English, obviously. Oh, convenient back to school, Mother.
Yeah.
No plan.
I think Clem's left the building now. Yeah, after that one. Right, so keeping up with our good friend accent bias. Now, well, I need to change my screen in a little minute, Oliver. Okay, so you can see. You do like a sing song, don't you, Hannah? Oh, but Hannah enjoys her sing songs.
I don't.
Right, now, I would suggest that you keep your OneNote open on the actual page, because I'll be asking you to write things on your OneNote. So if you'll be able to follow the PowerPoint on screen, and I will upload that again to, what do we call it? Where did that disappear to? I will upload it again onto the Teams as well, so you've got that there. Can you see that, Oliver?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So this is just starting off. Now I want you to read this next one, this next slide that comes up. I want you to. Oh, just read it. I don't want to read it, or do you want you to just read it quietly to yourselves? It wasn't until I went to university that I became aware people saw me as a northerner. You know, I was in my first ever lecture when a boy, sounding almost relieved, turned to me and said, "Did you just say butty?" His housemates had apparently been taking the mick out of him for saying it during freshers, and he was grateful to have found someone who didn't call it a bat, a bun, a sarnie, etc. This interaction forced me to realise that any way of speaking other than the Queen's English and received pronunciation, RP, was seen as being other. Being northern at a northern university, you wouldn't expect to run into too much prejudice, but it was surprising often I came across the view that my accent equals working class, less cultured, uneducated. I could go on. One manager at work consistently told me my accent was awful, and flatmates were more than keen to correct it. At university, as my wares and stares were conscientiously corrected by my RP speaking peers, I began to establish myself as unapologetically northern. Definitely not one of those weird southerners. Now, what I'd like to do in your OneNote now is, why do you think people react in this way? What does it mean? And what does it mean in this concept here? What does it mean to be northern? How would you define being northern? Yeah? Okay, can you, in your OneNotes now, just jot down, if you want to, if you want to sort of subhead it as northerner reaction, not northern accent reaction, that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty pronounced there, and it is pretty weird that reaction should happen at what we regard as a northern university. Yeah. When you think about it, everybody likes to, lots of folk like to correct people, don't they, about the way they speak. It's like a pastime for some people. You got your ideas down, Hannah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, that was quick. That's superly quick.
Well, I'm getting them down. I haven't done them.
What does it mean to be northern, and why do people react this way? Oh, I was going to say, have you? I could see you wiggling your lobe.
This is very tall. No, it's very tall. One of them's pierced like that, and this one's really wonky. And I feel the safety there.
Oh, it was a wonky donkey.
Yeah. But it's no, that isn't the lesson.
That's not the lesson. That's just the PowerPoint. That's in the lesson.
You just have to write your own.
You write your own things on your OneNote. Hang on. I'm just going to disappear for a second, Oliver. I'll come back to this in a sec. So on OneNote, Hannah, we've got this. That's listen. So that's the embedded. Oops, oh, you can't see that now. If I then, oh, I know what it is. Yeah, if I go back to this. So on that OneNote lesson, accent bias, the PowerPoint's there. Yeah. Yeah, so it's just on that page. You know, if you just again go down to the bottom, but yeah, write down what you think it is to be northern. Yeah, and why people react the way they do. Now, where's that go? Up there. I want to change it back. I do it. Where's it all gone? I'm back to it. Fine. You got your ideas down there, Penny? Yeah? Okay. Let's begin to just sort of romp around the room. Yeah, right. So, Oliver.
Yes.
Hi, Oliver. What in your mind, can you give me a definition? How would you define somebody being northern? What defines a northerner?
Just someone who lives in the north of the country.
Yeah, there's a fairly straightforward. But people get, I mean, again, even if you don't live in the north of the country, let's say you're living in Surrey and you speak with a northern accent, you'll still be defined as a northerner, won't you? So it has to be something more than this. Penny, what did you put down for your definition of a northerner?
I said it was someone that was proud of the way they speak and where they came from.
Oh, I like that. Proud of the way they speak and where they come from. So again, using that, the accent as a badge of honour is something which helps to define them. Yeah, good. Libby, what about you? What defines a northerner?
It's someone who lives in the north that has a northern.
So again, it's a combination of both. Living in the north, having a northern accent. Yeah, Hannah.
I said northerners can be seen from southern, like a southern perspective, as like working class, uneducated, not informed.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, again, a little bit what's been in here, isn't it? Sometimes we put, we make that sort of preconceived ideas. Those from the north are more likely to be working class. Where would that come from? Where would that come from? That idea that they're all working class. Where would that come from?
I think we don't have any cities in the north.
And I mean, again, when you think about the Industrial Revolution coming along, the powerhouse of that, the driving force of that was like Liverpool, Manchester, that kind of area. That's where the mills were, the cotton industry, and so working in a mill.
Yeah, like all the major places were.
Yeah, and then Birmingham, again, you've got that for the iron ore, the coke, that's who hasn't been to Bliss Hill on a school trip over by, Shropshire Way, which is in that sort of, in the valleys there, where a lot of that stuff was going down to sort of Birmingham and beyond sort of thing. It's that idea. So there's that sort of hangover of that industrialisation of the north. Good. Charlotte, what about you? What did you put for? Yeah, very good. Again, it's the vowel structure which clearly helps to define you as being northern rather than kind of southern. And then, why do we think? Here's a student who said, "This is my experience at university." Why do you think other students reacted in this way to this person?
It's a lot different.
Yeah, but she was a northerner, wasn't she, in a northern university? But she said others were saying, she said this lad was obviously having a terrible time having the accent, having the mick taken out of his accent. Why would that happen?
It sounds like quite a silly word if you've never heard it before, like buddy.
Okay. Penny, why do you think people would sort of label them, pick up on them because of their accent?
I said they're like not used to hearing them, and like the little things they have heard about them might be negative.
Yeah. Now, going to introduce you to something which we're going to find out about a little bit later on today, and that is
Social networking.
social networks.
Before you even wrote it down.
Yeah. So you'll be able to see this at the moment, Oliver. I've written on the whiteboard, but we're getting into the territory now of what get called social networks. Okay. Now, as we'll find out later on, what do you think? What do you think social networks relates to? Contacts. And within social networks, do you think you'll talk in a similar way?
Not necessarily.
You'd be wrong there, Hannah.
Everyone does.
You have a common kind of language style within social networks. Initially, social networks would come out of things like the workplace, and maybe fixing a sort of geographical location. But what was then found was that even within a sort of broad geographical base, such as the North, you could have different social networks working around, because it tends to be the sort of work experience that you're in, or the sort of the work environment that you're in. So let's say if you're in the North and you happen to be a lawyer, you are going to probably have a different accent that talk in a different way, in some way, shape, or form, from somebody, let's say, who is still doing, regarded as heavy. Let's say they work in a building site, you know, in the building trade sort of thing within the North as well. It's going to be different, because your social network, your community, or people that you talk with on a daily basis will talk, let's say, in a more refined way than the building trade will do. That sort of idea. And this is what began to get explored here. And this would maybe sort of tie into what's happening here at a university. As a group, and again, think of it almost like in a tribal way. You create a group, and those who all talk in a similar fashion, in a similar way, you gravitate towards that social network, because you feel at home there, you feel part of that community. And others may well then turn on you for the way that you speak. It's a way of saying, you don't belong within our group, don't seek to join it. Yeah? Okay. Next up on our accent bias, here we have among the unfavourable accents were multicultural London English. So that would be those who have come and have got what you can see as dual cultural heritage within them. It could be African, it could be Caribbean, it could be Indian, Pakistan, that sort of thing, community, you know, which you get in London. And so you know that you maybe your second, third generation of that community, but you'll still have that mix of those different Englishes going on in your family. Okay, and English spoken with a foreign accent. Less privileged groups, such as working class and ethnic minorities, are subject to prejudice, whether that be subconscious or conscious, in both social and professional contexts. Fiona Brennan, who was working at a London record label after moving from Leeds, recalls the time a colleague told her, "I used to think you were a bit stupid, but you're not. It's just your accent." Comments like this can cause feelings of embarrassment, insecurity in non-standard speakers, and may prevent them from progressing in their company due to a lack of confidence. So accent bias affects the hiring decisions, perceptions in professions, from politics to journalism to hospitality and retail. Again, with those comments that Fiona Brennan makes here about, you know, how somebody openly comes out and says, you know, I think you're a bit stupid because of your accent. Now, you think about being able to say that to an employee. You know, you think you're comfortable in saying that to an employee. Again, how do you react to that? What do you think that says about accent, about power structures, and about what goes on within a workplace? I mean, think about what that could be referred to if it were to be ongoing. Think if you were being I don't want to put words into your mouth here so you get the idea. Think if you were to be told on a daily basis that your accent was out of place within your workplace community. What would that be an example of? It's discrimination. And also, think of it in
actions upon it, so how's it discrimination?
Oh, if you're telling somebody that their accent
Their occupation.
is out of place, it is. And what else would it be apart from discriminatory? You tell somebody every day the way you talk, it's not right. You need to change. What is that? Give me a B word, and it's not rude. Who said that? Whoever said it was? Yeah, isn't it? It's bullying in the workplace. Yeah, isn't it? Because you're saying, you're wrong. You don't speak like us. You're not one of us. And if you want to get on in this company, you're going to have to talk like one of us. Yeah. So Hannah, how do you react to that, to somebody being told, you know what? I don't like the way you talk. It makes you sound a bit stupid.
It just makes you feel like rubbish about yourself.
It's going to make them feel rubbish about themselves, yeah. What do you think, Libby? You were going to feel a bit rubbish, yeah? Penny?
Definitely use confidence. Probably speak up and work less. And just yeah.
Yeah, and what might it compel you to do, possibly? You might quit if you, but it's, yeah, or if quitting's not kind of an option yet, you might begin to change the way you talk. Yeah, which again comes back to that. So, have you all had your interviews with Mr. Oh, you didn't get the one with the UCAS thing? You only get that. I wonder if you did it, you started doing it in year 12. Okay.
Probably should.
Yeah. But how many of you then have had a conversation, let's say, with Mr. Lloyd and Mr. Allman?
About what?
About anything. About anything.
I've had a conversation with them.
Yeah. And do you find yourself changing the way you speak when you're speaking to Mr. Allman or Mr. Lloyd?
I know I have a teacher's voice, not really.
No?
I still say I'm just as honest.
Yeah. Hannah?
I have a teacher's voice.
Do you? What is your teacher's voice?
Sometimes I go, it's really I go hi, and then, no, thank you, or
You always do that.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'm guessing as some teachers it's more pronounced than the others with. Yeah.
If I don't really know someone and it's at work, I won't be talking like this. I'll be like, oh, thank you. I don't.
So I know I can get it because
higher.
yeah, there's a higher pitch. Yeah, there is a.
I don't.
No, there's other times where it's in here that you can see it drops a tone or so. But I get what you mean, and you do that. It's quite a common one. Penny, stop giggling in the corner.
No, it's just you always talk.
Well, sometimes no. When she slips it in, she might do that tone first thing when she comes into the room, but then she slips into a different tone. I recognise what you're saying, Hannah. Don't you listen to them?
I do. Everyone says I have the biggest teacher voice.
Yeah. And so you think when you're using that teacher. Now here's a good one. Penny, when you're talking to Miss Alos, how do you speak with Miss Alos? Do you think is it any different to other teachers?
I think I do go with the accent now.
No?
No, I don't think I do, to be honest.
Okay. What about your voice when you're speaking Spanish? Does it feel different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Como estás? ¿Cómo estás?
Yeah. What is it that feels different about it?
The pronunciation.
They having too much fun with so yeah. And I don't know. It's because we're doing A-levels.
We should do a Spanish dancing song. No, we shouldn't. Then we should compete with them.
That'd be very confusing, yeah. So do you have to think about what you're saying in Spanish, Penny? Or does it come quite naturally?
No, I was thinking about it a lot.
Yeah, that would quite time. Whereas, again, you think about that whole sort of speaking process.
I speak Welsh a bit often. I can just talk.
So that tells you that you're bilingual. That is bilingual.
Just great conversation for relaxing.
But it's that whole concept, isn't it? So it's something that is going to be hard to work at. And we've all got different voices for different people. You'll hear it. I mean, if you listen to staff, you'll hear staff talk to pupils in different ways.
I've noticed that staff
Yeah.
talk a lot differently, like they spoke to you a lot differently in year 11 college.
Yeah. Do you feel more respected in sixth form?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a lot more leniency.
Yeah, yeah, and there is that idea in the way that you're spoken to, and again, you'd have that with different teachers and different students at different times. Yeah, would you agree, Penny? Yeah, Penny's agree. It's fine. What about you, Oliver? What do you think about this sort of labelling of people with their sort of educational rate is equal to the way that they talk?
I think it's kind of frustrating that it's something like I can hear myself echoing. It's kind of frustrating that it's something that's normalized like in society.
Yeah, I mean, do you find yourself talking in any different way to different teachers?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it depends how much like time like you spent with the teacher or how much trust you've got with them.
Yeah, yeah. That's got to my question before I ask it, sort of thing, you know, about what drives these things. Okay, so we're all kind of consciously aware of these things. Here is one of the worst examples of what can happen when bias gets out of control. Okay, this is a genuine news article. From 2019. Scouts are charged with being drunk in charge of a child after police mistook his accent for slurring. A Brighton man with a strong Scouse accent was charged with being drunk in charge of a young girl after police mistook his accent for being drunk. Defending, said, no offence to people with Scouse accent, but the nature of the accent itself is that it can make people appear drunk. The officers didn't notice the Scouse accent, but they did say his speech was slurred. However, the body-worn camera footage shows that this is not made up, his name is Mr. Shakespeare, wasn't slurring his words. Giving the verdict of not guilty, chair of the bench, Rosalind Buchanan said, the passerby had seen a snapshot of the situation of a short period of time. The two police officers failed to spot the defendant's strong Liverpool accent. We find him to be a very credible witness who gave an honest account and readily admitted having 2.5 drinks. He said the child was sat at his side at all times and was never near the road. The body-worn footage showed he remained firm but polite at all times, and there was no evidence of Mr. Shakespeare losing his full control. Right. What I want you to do in your OneNotes there is write down your reactions to that. 2.5. 2.5. Hang on a minute, I think I can, because I did this before. I think you can actually get the story. Let's see. Let me get it for you. I do that just now. Oop. Oop. Go to that as well. But I want you to write down your reactions to that news. You know, there is the police, and again, he's been arrested, he's been charged completely wrongly. And it's obvious that there was a conversation took place, and it's obvious that the police just didn't believe him and just think, nah, they've made their mind up the minute they heard him. There's an even better one. Teresa Ryland's Liverpool accent led to wrongful murder charge. There you go. How about this one? Scouse accent sank murder trial. Suspect played after experts. Whoops. Go away. Adverts. After experts decide supposed confession was misheard because of regional dialect, she spends 33 weeks in custody, right? Murder suspect has been cleared after experts found that a supposed confession she made a 999 call was misheard because of a strong regional accent. Teresa Ryland spent 33 spent weeks in custody, wrongly accused of killing an alcoholic boyfriend or a friend who had died after falling down the stairs. A key piece of evidence was the hysterical 999 call she made after Neil Mitchell, 48, fell at home in Newton Abbot, Devon in August. She was thought to have told the operator, "I don't care, I pushed him down the stairs, just get someone in here." But acoustics test showed the Liverpudlian actually said, "I don't care if you say I pushed him down the stairs, just get someone in here." Prosecutor Paul Dunkel's QC says she was becoming increasingly agitated at the questions from the operator. The mistake occurred because the Devon police officer who transcribed her 999 call to the ambulance was confused by her strong Scouse accent. Social workers told Exeter Crown Court that Mr. Mitchell had previously made false complaints of being assaulted to explain drunken falls. Forensic tests also showed that a head injury was probably caused when he hit the radiator at the bottom of the stairs rather than a blow before he fell. Miss Rylands was arrested after 48-year-old Mr. Mitchell died from his injuries he suffered in a fall down the stairs in home in Barton Drive, Newton Abbot, Devon. Always denied what happened when Mr. Mitchell was more than 4 times over the drink drive limit. He had one leg longer than the other as a result of suffering serious injuries in a motorcycle accident in 1983 and was often unstable on his feet because he chose not to wear a caliper on his leg. He also became a chronic alcoholic, drinking heavily. So there you go. That is even worse than the one that I got you on the actual PowerPoint sort of thing. There is somebody being charged falsely with the crime of murder just because of their Scouse accent. Yeah? Why? What does that reveal? Whoop, let's get this back up.
No, it's just like people are uneducated.
Well, is it just, is it as simple as that, or?
Like, the only accent is like the proper, the southern, you know?
Yeah.
People who have an northern accent, they are seen, like, the stereotype is that they are more.
Yeah.
Like, a horrible person.
Well, isn't it? Because, I mean, 2 of them. One is making the association, isn't it? You're Scouse, yes, you'll be drunk during the day, and yes, you don't know how to look after your children. You're a bad parent because of your accent. Literally. And the second one is, yeah, you're capable of committing murder. I hear it in your thick Scouse accent. And again, all these prejudices that come forward to the fore just because of the way that someone speaks. And as you can see, that then means that you could have some, a really kind of terrible repercussions here. I mean, the first one is a bit of a laugh and a joke, because the guy's name being Mr. Shakespeare's been arrested for being drunk and disorderly, can't look after his child, got a thick Scouse accent. But in fact, actually, no, he's not. He's just going about his lawful business. And yet policemen make that judgment call. Yeah? I mean, I used to get it a lot. That people would say something along the lines of, "I love your accent, but I don't understand the word you're saying." How insulting is that? When you think, if you actually analyse it, how insulting is it? Isn't it? I mean, because what it is, it's a case of somebody's just, as you were saying, they can't be bothered to listen to you because you don't speak like them. Because different accents is like listening to different types of music. You just have to tune your ear to the music of the accent, the way that somebody talks, and then you understand it, sort of thing. And it was this idea that they're not prepared to do that, and they're making that judgment call. And it's like they give the compliment in the one hand, but then hit you with the back of the hand in the other. And again, it's making you feel that you're the one that's inferior, you're the one that's in the wrong because you don't speak with their preconceived idea of what it should be like. Yeah? So, RP, received pronunciation. This used to be a thing. So it did, received pronunciation. It's just how we all used to talk at one point. Received pronunciation is an accent that has no accent. You flatten all the vowels out, You don't roll your R's, you don't drop your T's, all that sort of stuff. A lot of it is a bit of a hangover from the good old days of the British colonies sort of thing. I suppose one of the easiest ways to think about it is the RP was the way that the Queen and those of a higher social order would used to sort of speak, would talk, and that was perceived to be the right way to talk. Okay, and people mimic that, and so it was then, if you wanted to get on in life, if you wanted to have a kind of prestigious job, that would be the accent that you would use. That would be the accent that you would have. Okay. Partly, as it says there, it was to do with the empire. It was all to do with status, the class system, and it was a way of keeping the class system in place. So that it stayed that way, that rigidly, because those at the bottom wouldn't have that received pronunciation, easily identifiable. So that's where you get your workers from. They belong in that industrial fodder, that sort of thing. Okay. But then we have change comes along, and this, I suppose, it can be sort of mid-90s or so, things begin to change. That's when you begin to see, especially in places like the BBC, on the news media, you begin to see the rise of the regional accent. That's when you begin to get news reporters coming on from the regions and talking in a strong. I mean, also you've got good old Hugh Edwards in the BBC now, as Welsh can be. But you've also got an awful lot of other regional. I mean, you've got the Northern Irish accent, you've got the Glasgow accent coming on, you've got Edinburgh, you get the north of England. In a way, the accent now within the BBC especially is kind of like a badge of honour. They see that as diversification. They see that as, we're sort of celebrating all these different aspects of who our audience is. And it has begun to change quite dramatically here. As it says here, we've got the diversity in sort of modern contemporary culture. I mean, you think about the people now who rise to sort of social media prominence and who get shows on the back of it and that sort of thing, and they don't, what we would in the past have said, they don't speak proper, and so they wouldn't have got a job, they wouldn't get anywhere near it. But now that does not hold you back. That in some ways that can sometimes spur you on to getting a job. I mean, you think of all the people who've had spin-offs from the likes of Love Island, all the kind of celebrity type shows. There's one, there was one from Geordie Shore who went on to get a kind of show of their own as well, I think, wasn't it? Is that the one? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But all of these ones, they seem to, you got the ones that the only, yeah. And then, again, from The Only Way is Essex, you got people who began to sort of spin off. Then you got the Made in Chelsea. These people have become kind of celebrities in their own right for speaking in a very particular way, and then others come on to mimic them and be like them, that sort of thing. And so it does change. Now, how are we doing for time? About 5 minutes or so. I'm going to set you up with some work for Thursday, and that. Yeah, I'm going to ask you to go and look at the Accent Bias website as well and do a little bit. I'll direct it to a couple of pages, and I want you to write, again, record 3 things that maybe sort of shock you, startle you, or intrigue you that you find on this. Because you will find, as we've already done, about age being a barometer of difference here and how people react to various accents. As you can see, the 25-year-olds much more open to a variety of regional accents, whereas the 55 and above far more discriminatory. That's the RP, the first column, is the one that they see nice traditional ones they're happy with. Anything else they don't like. Okay, and then we also have a little bit of what we're talking about here with the social networks, and we're going to be starting to deal with some of these sort of theories around how language has changed, evolved, why we talk the way that we do. The interesting one, and I think this will be quite interesting to have a discussion about it, because I think some of this has changed a bit. Now that last one there, but it said in the Milroy kind of study, they saw that women, even when they're coming from that sort of working class background, they tended to be more low density networks than men, which meant that they didn't rely upon the workplace to define how they spoke. They would kind of stick to their mother tongue, where they'd grown up, what they'd inherited from their family sort of thing, they would keep. And it was this, and one of the reasons behind that was that they thought that they tended to prefer speaking in standard forms, and that they would use colloquialism, slang less than men, and also use swearing less than men. And I think that'll be something that'll be worth pursuing with you as a group a little bit later down the line. Do you think that gender bias is still as relevant today? At one point, it was kind of a given that men were just more kind of.
I think women are just as bad at how to use.
I think it might again depend on your age as well. I think at a certain age, yeah, some females and males, they're kind of similar in the way that they use language. But I think maybe as you get older, I think females will return back to that more conventional way of talking, where it will be less colloquial, less slang, less swearing, that sort of thing. I think that comes back again in later life. But I think in that 18 sort of maybe to sort of 25-year-old bracket sort of thing, I think, as you say, in certain social situations, females and males are kind of they're not that different in the way that they use language. Not nowadays, not today, because of the different things that we've been exposed to. I think is part and parcel of that. What this is kind of leading to again is that last bullet point down there, and it's this idea about how it was that industrialization, it was the workplace, and again you think how the workplace is changing yet again. Yeah. At the time when this study is done, it's done in the mid-70s, and so we have still got your factories, densely populated city, urban areas. They are the norm. But you think how much that is changing now. All the big industrialization areas in Britain are kind of gone. You know, the coal industry's gone, the steel industry's gone, those big sort of powerhouses, the shipyards have gone as well. So those big industrialization factories, plants are now replaced more by those sort of automated machinery that you get in the car plants. And it's a guy who's standing in a production line to make sure things are going along a conveyor belt, all that sort of stuff. It's a different kind of workplace now. The other big shake-up to our workplace, and I'll be interested to see how maybe that changes the way that we use language too as well, like anything has been the pandemic. You think of the number of people who are still working from home to this day, and maybe have got no intention of going back to working in an office. That is going to have a big impact in the way that people talk too as well, because at work, it was a place of socialization. It was a place of communication. You know, you go to work and you've got your work colleagues, you've got your work buddies, that sort of thing. You all talk in the same way. You talk about different, common things. It might be about your work. It also might be about what was on the TV the night before, sport, that sort of thing, that idea. With the working from home, that whole pattern changes. And so how does that affect the way that people talk within professions and outside of those professions? Again, another kind of area of study that might be interesting when it comes to NEAs and looking at language studies. But we are going to look at some of the theories behind this. It's Thursday next week, we've got the double, isn't it, this week? Thursday, yeah. We're going to be looking at two things. We're going to be looking at a bit more closely at bias in the workplace. And then we're going to be looking at some of the different theories about how language and the way that people talk began to change, and how you begin to sort of, assign labels to the way that people talk. We'll start off in the UK, but we'll begin to see some of the work that is done in other countries like America, also some being done for the way that people speak out in the Caribbean, also in Africa, in relation to English and their use of English, and we'll begin to explore those too. But in Teams, I will set up some work that I want you to do for me as well for Thursday, mainly looking in the British Accent Bias website. It's really good for you to have a route around that, because I say there's some very good material in there, some of which we'll use in lessons, others I'll just direct you to read it, because I think it's really important you begin to get that sort of theoretical stuff behind you as well. Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, as it be coming up to 3, that takes us to, and we get a lesson next, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, no, Charlotte's not. No.
No.
Oh, biology. You just got to go home now, yeah? Okay, Oliver. Is it?
Okay.
Yeah, see ya tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Who's going to be in tomorrow? Who's not going to be in tomorrow? Right, see ya. Man. They do, don't they? Bye.